Hey everybody, welcome back to the internet. This is Min here, and I am going to show you a little bit of Sora's storyboard feature. Now, Sora just recently launched, so I decided to, show you guys what's happening under the hood and how to play around with it. Now, the storyboard feature is something that I haven't really seen in other video generator apps, and I've played with quite a bunch of them, as you can see in the videos that I've made. And if you want to see more, just for the Sora launch, I made a bunch of videos, so click up on the playlist above and you'll see all the different videos that I've recorded for Sora, comparing it, looking at, the business of OpenAI, as well as looking at other features and how to use it. But this one, we're going to focus specifically on Storyboard because it's just such a unique feature of Sora. Now, it allows you essentially to kind of guide the model to kind of move through images within a video, so to speak. It's very powerful. It took me a while to get used to when I first started playing with it a few months ago, and it was like interacting with other creators that like within the alpha Sora program that really helped me to understand how it works and how to play around with it. In either case, let's just jump straight into it and you'll see exactly what I mean. So here we are. This is essentially what the storyboard feature looks like, right? So just to give you a sense, this below here, this is the timeline. This is going to help you generate one video, right? So when I first interacted with this, I was confused. I thought it was going to like allow me to essentially edit like multiple videos across one like general editing timeline, but that's not what this is. These are scenes essentially, you can think about it, in one video, not necessarily scenes across like a larger like film, so to speak. So maybe it's better to even compare this with CapCut. So if I have CapCut here, I edited my video here yesterday. So this is like this is the timeline here, right? And I'm editing in clips. These right here are not clips. They're essentially scenes in a video, and you'll see exactly what I mean very soon. But what I can do here is describe, essentially, you see here, describe a scene or add an image or a video in each scene which will inspire the sequence, right? And you can do so here by uploading. And I can also like drag and drop. So here we go. So if I drag and drop here, right, I can add a image or a video here. So that would kind of nudge it in a certain direction, but we'll get to that. So essentially, let's go back real quick to the main interface. So this is the main interface. You can see a few things that I was generating for another video here. And you can see here there's a storyboard button. So I can just click on storyboard here and it starts a brand new storyboard, and I can edit how long the duration is, 5, 10, 15, 20 seconds. And Sora is maybe the only one right now that allows for 20 seconds, which is a big jump from what we've seen from other competitors. But it doesn't necessarily keep it stable. And you see in my compare video, comparing image to video across all of these players up here, Dream Machine, Hailua, Runaway, Flux, Kriya, Pika Labs, Kling, and more, how they compare in terms of generating a video based on an image. But that's not what we're looking at here. We're looking at how does storyboard work. So you got variations. It allows for 4 potential variations. You can bring that down to 2 or just 1. I always do 4, but that'll cost you credits. And then you have the presets, which manage like the style that'll be in. Then you have the seconds, which I just showed, and then you can also change resolution here, and then aspect ratio. So right now it's a 16:9, even though it looks like it's vertical, which is a little confusing. This is 9:16, which would be vertical, and then 1:1, which is square, which I always go 6:9 because I like that filmmaker vibe. Now, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of video, or of storyboard, but how to get to it is you kind of start here, right? And let's say that I want to generate, and we'll do a generating straight from text to video here. So in this case, I'll say, rabbit walking down the streets of New York. And I'm going to generate a full 20 seconds so you can see here. And I'll just generate it first here, just a video, 4 variations of that video, as you can see here, 4V. And 20 seconds I just did, and 4DP, which I recommend. It's fastest. I don't like to do this, although the quality is higher. You can also change the quality later in storyboards. 6x9, and I didn't use a preset, which we can get into at another time. And I'll also do another one, rabbit. And actually here, instead of typing it, I can click in on this here, there's a little hack here, and then click on this text here. And then I can generate from here in this screen. I can also tune this down to, let's say, 2 videos. I can tune this up to, say, 720p, although I don't recommend it because it'll be a little bit slower. And let's say I'm going to use a preset of vintage old photo, and I'm going to create that video. Now, unfortunately, doing this, I don't get to access Storyboard, as you can see here. Instead, what I can do is copy from here, go back to the main interface, paste here, and then click on Storyboard from here. So this is where things get a little bit more interesting, which is it jumps straight into Storyboard. So while we're waiting for these, we'll come back and check those out. We're gonna check out how this works and click straight to Storyboard. See, it takes a minute to load here, and now I'm popped right into Storyboard. So you can see how this works right away. It's actually helped me to write. And so this is the peculiarity here. Maybe there's ChatGPT under the hood a bit here where it's helping me with the prompting. But as you can see, I wrote like a rabbit walking down the street in New York, and then it jumped into here and it said, a rabbit standing upright and wearing a tiny backpack begins its journey. Now this is worth editing, right? And you can click on here and it also expands the caption. So it's gonna help you with the prompting as well. But it does get a little creative, right? Skyscrapers tower overhead and yellow cabs. So it is filling in a lot of detail here. Pedestrians oblivious to the rabbit hurry along the sidewalks, some glancing at their phones. The rabbit pauses, its nose twitching as it looks up at the towering buildings, blah, blah, blah. And then this is second scene at second 6 right here, right? So like this is the second scene, this is the third scene, 1, 2, 3. So at second 6, because I requested a 20-second video, at second 6 it's telling the rabbit to stop, examine a display of colorful flowers at a street vendor stall. Interesting. And then at second 13, so it entered 3 scenes here, the rabbit continues its journey passing by a group of street performers playing lively music. Very New York. So I'm just going to click create and see what it does from there. I can also, and that added it to the queue, so that's all happening in the background. I click on here to jump back. I'm going to also add something at second 18 here, and I'm just going to say this is my 4th scene. Let's say a rabbit dances. Okay, and I'm going to click on expand caption, and it's going to fill that in for me as well. It's also going to take into account, the prompt here is going to take into account what it's essentially seen over here. So look at this. Image quality boasts vivid colors and captures the animated moment perfectly, blah, blah. As it pauses, begins to dance, a visible animation of the urban background, playing lively music, blah, blah, blah. So see, it remembered, or it referenced here, and then also added that to this prompt as well. This is helpful, right? So here, I'm going to click on create there as well. So that'll take a few minutes, so we'll wait for that. While we're waiting for that, we can see this is my initial prompt. Just you can see here, it says the information, City Hopping Rabbit Adventure. It named it for me, which is, you don't really have control over that. It says prompt here as opposed to image prompt. So you can see here, this is what I did in the other video, image prompt, and I didn't prompt any text for that. So there's no bolded text here. And so I put, this is implies a text prompt, and then this was the actual text prompt, and these are the parameters, and this is the time. Now, let's see how that did. So when you move your cursor over it, it moves things forwards and backwards, which is sometimes annoying, but my advice here is what I usually do is I just kind of move it a little bit, and then it activates the video, and I start from the beginning, and I just leave my cursor there. So obviously, this one on the right almost looks like, the bottom right looks like a video game here. The one on the top right turned it into a stuffed animal, apparently. And then the one on the top left did a interesting job of zooming the camera in and out, but having a rabbit legitimately walking around. And then this bottom left one almost looks like the Energizer Bunny, frankly. Maybe it's using that as a reference. So yeah, so that's just prompting, walking the streets of New York, no storyboard. Okay. This one is, I used the preset. If you can remember, it doesn't refer that. So it doesn't remind me that I use that preset. Unless I go into here, it still doesn't quite tell me until I look up here, vintage old photo, which then it tells me what the preset was, which, you know, this preset was vintage old photo. So it kind of has that coloring. But this isn't what I wanted either, but I just wanted to see you like just a quick view of what preset does. We'll do another video on that another time, but nice kind of photo here, and this maybe actually turns out to be one of the nicer photos that I wanted, except for that strange lurch there on the hind legs of the rabbit. And finally, this is the storyboard version. So this is 20 seconds. This was, just to remind you, I can click in on here and click in on here, and I can see the storyboard that we had. So this is essentially what we used to generate that one. So from here, we've got storyboard, and these are the videos. So I have to click back in. It's a little janky, but so once again, I'm going to just leave my cursor here, and we're going to see how well it did. It, rabbit walking along, meeting a group of musicians, and then dancing along. So it did meet the street vendor. Pretty cool. Unfortunately, the rabbits are kind of weird. The one on the top left, its butt is strange, running around like that, and the bottom right, its legs are a little weird. Top right, it's warping in a strange way there. Bottom left, also kind of funny there, but it does meet the street vendor, doesn't find the musicians, which is interesting. So it's worth thinking about here again that storyboards are just like any other thing where you're prompting. It's another type of prompt engineering where you're weighting, right? As in weight, as in like heaviness. You're weighting different things against each other. So it's like text versus image, which language, what kind of language are you using, etc. My advice also is to go into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT come in here, and you can describe, hey, I'm using Sora's storyboard, help me to walk through each scene for that storyboard. That might be useful for you, although I'm not, to what extent ChatGPT actually understands what's happening in Sora is another question. And here's the one where I actually added a fourth scene on my own using the prompt. So let's click back in here to remind ourselves what I did. So here, 1, 2, 3, and fourth, I added this, right? I started with rabbit starts walking or walks down the street in New York, and it gave me these 3 scenes in that last video that we just looked at, and then gave me, and I added this one, and it gave me this extra prompting here, right? And so let's see what we got out of those 4. This is the last 4 here, and let's see if it actually ended up dancing and meeting these musicians. So I'm going to go all the way back here and let it ride. And now obviously I don't love these rabbits, but at least we're getting to see a street vendor, and now it's not exactly, it's going to see the flower vendor, which is cool, but not apparently going to see the musicians quite yet in these. Oh, maybe we're seeing a little dancing in the top right. Oh, we're seeing some dancing there in the bottom left. Okay, and nope, doesn't look like anything in the bottom right either. But suffice to say, you kind of get the idea here on how Storyboard works, at least. Obviously, it's still an early beta video generator, and so it's not, perfect. It's not always going to get it right. But this at least gives you a sense of how the feature works. This gets really powerful. Let me show you things that I've done using Storyboard, which has varying results, right? I'm trying to get in this image here this woman to be in a garden as this like little mechanical robot starts to spray the garden. And first of all, it didn't get the garden the way that I want it to be. I want it to be like a Southeast Asian style garden. And so I put in all these different plants, and it definitely didn't get the mechanical cube that I wanted her to be using correct. And it had weird places where it got it. Now this is the image that I really liked initially that it created for me, and then it kept changing it into like a different type of cube, a rectangle, etc. And you can see how in Storyboard what I was trying to do. So in this case, I had this initial image which I was using, or this initial video that I was using. That's the main reference, and then I had the storyboard which was moving around it. Now there's a peculiarity here as to why this image is here, or this video is here, as opposed to in the very beginning. So this is something called recut, which is very powerful in Storyboard as well. So what is recut? I click in on recut here, and what it can do is it can single out a few seconds or 5 seconds, even as much as you want, of a particular image or a video, and the part that you like. So if we go through this video here, this I definitely don't like. I don't like her spraying out the mist from her mouth, even if it's not even her mouth. and then the ball, the cube changed into this like weird shape, which I didn't like. What I liked was this, right? These first few seconds of a spinning object spraying out mist. So how do I get that? So I go into here and I single that out all the way over to here, which is as early as I can be. Unfortunately, I can't get more than that, or more granular than that, but at least that's a few milliseconds that are a good reference point. Then I can see the plus button coming up here, this little dash here. I can, let's say I want to shorten this to 5 seconds, and I'm going to add this here, and I'm going to say zoom in on misty spinning mechanical cube in girl's hand. Okay, our goal, let's say palm even, let's get more specific. And we can do expand caption or we can leave it. I'm going to create one so you can see what that looks like. And then I'm going to expand caption and see how that kind of adjusts. Now you can see here, it gets really, granular. Sometimes it adds things that I didn't want, but I'm going to let it ride and see. Image quality is crisp with a high dynamic range and dramatic focus. Nice, good. Scene captures a close-up of a young girl's hand with mysterious, misty mechanical cube spinning gently in her palm. This is great. Now, sometimes it's also just referring, it's like looking at this original image or video, and it's referring to that. So let's go in and see what those look like. They're going to take a minute. There's also in Storyboard this image aspect, which now I'm going to show you here. So I have this nice photo of a rabbit walking down the street in New York. So I'm going to upload that photo in particular. Okay, it's going to take a minute here. So now I've uploaded this photo. Now what I could do is just generate straight from there. Okay, and generated a video now. And as you can see, nice that it's also showing me when things are done over here in the queue. So that's kind of nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to storyboard it. So I'm going to add this here, and I'm going to say rabbit walking up the streets of New York, taxis passing by. Okay, and I'm going to click on create, and I'm going to do expand caption again so you can again see the difference between these two. There you go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a different photo of a rabbit, and I'm going to grab that from Midjourney. I was playing around with rabbits the other day here, and so I'm going to grab another photo of a rabbit which I created, and let's say I'll take this one. Maybe the rabbit made it to Brooklyn. It's got a Brooklyn feel to it, right? And so I'm going to grab that from Midjourney, and I'm going to dump that in here as my second reference photo. And let's see now what happens when you use two images as reference. See, now here, look, Storyboarder gives a tip here. When using multiple photos or videos within a storyboard, make sure they have a common setting and characters for the best results. So this is kind of like multi-keyframing, essentially. And I'm just going to click on create there. Then I'm going to extend this to 10 seconds, do another one, and I'm going to say rabbit goes up to a brownstone porch. Okay, we're going to click on create on that, and we're going to expand caption and do another create there. Boom, expanded that. We're going to create that one as well. And lastly, you know what? I'm going to do one more, and it's going to be, oh, this one here. Perfect. And I'm going to add that as a photo as well. So we're going to click on here, add another photo here, add another kind of scene here, and then I'm going to drag and drop my photo right over here of this rabbit. Boom. Perfect. So there we go. I got 3 different scenes, and it, oh my gosh, look at that. So it has a mind of its own. The storyboard added another thing here. I'm just going to let it ride and do that. And you know what? I'm going to delete that as well and create as well. So now we've got this multi-keyframing aspect where I drag and dropped 3 different images. So now I just generated a bunch of stuff. So we're going to see how it handled all of that. We're going to start from the beginning. So this one, just to remind you, is a situation where I just use Storyboard with just generating the image into video without doing anything else, right? I could have done this straight from the menu here and just clicked on this upload button and it would have done exactly what this did. It just happened to be in Storyboard when I did it. So here, not too shabby. Rabbit walks forward, a little strange motion here and there. This bottom left one might be the nicest one, although it kind of is walking like a deer for some strange reason. But I like these, not too bad. Not too much motion, not too much of a command. Now this is a 5-second that I use Storyboard here, and I told it to walking up the streets of New York, taxis passing by. Now this is without using an aid of ChatGPT or whatever text prompting model is inside of Sora, the expand caption feature. And this is also not bad. There's a nice little zoom in on this one. Well, it kind of popped actually. It popped right over, which is different. This one, a nice little head movement. And this one I love because this guy is passing by, although the car is warped up here a little bit there, as you can see, warped into each other. And then this one had a nice pan in, or pan to the side, which I like. It's pretty usable. So as you can see, once I've text prompted an image using a storyboard, I'm kind of guiding the image in a certain way. Now here, I used the expand caption feature. So I had Sora essentially guide me in the prompting process. So let's see how it did here. So I have to say, not too bad either. Definitely, got some warping here on the bottom right, and some extreme movement from people emerging out of taxis in the bottom left. But some nice stuff, I'd say, in the bottom or the top left. Not too bad. Nice little rabbit movement there, and then the top right, we got some serious warping there. But as you can see, there's more variation now, and possibly because, of course, what it did here in storyboarding is it gave me a lot more words to work with, and so it's kind of like trying to compress all of those commands into the scene that we've instructed it to do, right? And so that's kind of, in my opinion, what's happening there. Sometimes these things are black boxes, it's hard to tell. Now here's the Urban Rabbit Adventure. Just to remind you, this is a scenario where I just prompted it 2 different images, so essentially like a keyframing scenario, and it basically jumped. So this is something that is interesting. Luma and Hailua and others did this in the early days, but they've, I think, adjusted pretty well to it now. Sora still suffers from it a little bit, especially bottom left here. Look at this. So it just kind of jumped, right? As you can see in the bottom left. In the top right also, it kind of just, it did flow, right? But there is kind of a jumpiness there. Top left, definitely a quick jump over, and then this one just kind of like zoomed in on the distorted warped face and then jumped as well. So in the top right is the only one where I kind of tried at least to flow together, but it didn't really connect the scenes quite yet there. So this is why I think texting from an image is very powerful. Here is a 10-second clip using Storyboard. And in this case, we are doing 2 images, and then Rabbit goes up to a brownstone porch. So I've given a text instruction as well here. So let's see how that did. And look at that already. I love this top left one. Even though there's a little bit of warpiness, it jumped into the scene, which is pretty cool. Bottom left also, we've got the scenario where it walked across, you see that, over to the Brownstone, Brooklyn area. And we look at the bottom right here. This looks like a jump, unfortunately. But a slow move towards that position and then jump to Brownstone. All of them, it looks like, just jumped straight to Brownstone. They didn't really, connect this image to that text prompt, unfortunately. So sometimes that's the luck of the draw, right? This is what happens. That's why I say, with AI tools, you got to re-roll. So here we have a different scenario where I had it, add a lot of text here. And let's see how it did in this scenario. Boom. So let's just let it ride here. So in all cases, they jumped across. And then in all cases also, it changed the rabbit. I don't know if, did I tell it to, did the AI here tell it to, oh yeah, see, so it said rabbit's soft white fur stands out against the earthy tones of the red brick and dark wood of the porch. So that unfortunately is why it changed the rabbit. And so probably why that kind of nudged it in the direction of just cutting straight to a new rabbit, or in this top right scenario, changing the rabbit, which is actually kind of cool. Magic, right? But yeah, so that's how that worked. Lastly, oh, there's 2 more here. We got this 10-second one where I had 3 images with a text prompt. So we'll see how this does across 3 different images. So jumped again, and then jumped once again. So unfortunately, a lot of jumpiness. And lastly, this one, which allowed for just only 3 images, right, in the storyboard. So I can click in on here. I can also jump to the storyboard, but you see, you get the idea. So here, and in this case, I didn't add any text instruction, which I think adds to the flow, right? If you are adding text instruction, it'll add to the flow more. If you just added photos, then it's kind of not knowing what to do here. So in this scenario, let's say, last thing that we'll try around here, we'll go back to the storyboard, and what I'll do is I'll add some text here, and I'll say like rabbit walks to Brooklyn, and then I'll add another text here, rabbit walks out to shop. Actually, let's just say rabbit walks. Let's not prompt it too much. And then let's expand both of these and let it ride. So actually, you see how I can expand both at the same time, which is nice. I can have that roll there. And let's see how that goes. And look at this, it added cartoon rabbit. And you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to edit that. So that's nice. It allows me to edit, right? Oversized ears bounce with each cheerful step. I don't want that to be happening. I'm just say it's expressive face. That's fine by me. It's funny that there's no punctuation here, right? And the vibrancy of Brooklyn, blah, blah, blah. And so it understood Brooklyn and understood what I meant there. And so let's see how that does. So I have 2 versions. One where I just prompted a little bit, kind of prompted raw, as we would say in Midjourney parlance. And then here I let the expand caption feature kind of let it ride and see how that did. So now let's see how Storyboard handles all that. So this will be my last generations for you guys, but you get a sense now of how Storyboard works. It is very flexible, a very powerful tool. Most of the other tools out there just have keyframing or just allow you to upload a photo and then let it ride and see what happens. So I think the impressive thing about what Sora's tried to do here, at least, is they've tried to make sure that you have more control over your generations to granular levels. And here, wait, let's check this out before I kind of finish here. So this is one where I just wrote these things, rabbit walks. So it did guide it a little bit, not the way that I love, the way that I wanted. Let's see here. Oh, it did on the bottom right here. Oop, a little weird jumping here. Okay, the top right is amazing, I gotta say. This kind of walk back and forth is amazing, although it made a jump kind of a funny way. But I gotta say, see, as you can see, when you're adding images and then you're adding descriptions between those images, this is where things really, really shine. Definitely, this is not perfect. I probably need to spend more time with this, but as you can see, this is very, very powerful and very editable, so to speak. And here's the last generation where it helped me to describe everything, which I think is probably going to give it too much information. So I like prompting in the raw, and I think that gives me like what I like the most. But as you can see, it gave me some pretty cool creative scenes here. So Sora is just really powerful in terms of how its interface works. I think they've done a really good job of thinking about how all these things move together in a certain way. And I think, you know, it's not in some ways not the best version, right? It's not the best video generator. I think you know, all of them are at a certain level against each other, you can say. Like in the other video where I compare image to video, like you can see, like sometimes Sora doesn't do so great with animated stuff. Sometimes it does really good. Sometimes Hailua is just knocking out of the park every time. Sometimes Luma is crushing it, even just in one generation. So each of them have their own personalities, their own peculiarities. But definitely Storyboard is this extremely powerful feature that allows you to go in there and go granular into specific videos and edit that. And I didn't spend too much time today on recut, or here on recut, but recut definitely is just so powerful. I showed you earlier what I wanted to do with that woman who was holding that mechanical cube. And here, this is what I generated from here. We can take a quick look at this. So in this scenario, I went in there and I commented, hey, zoom in on Misty spinning cube in girl's palm. And it definitely changed the cube, but you can see here that just by using recut, right? I cut out that first 2 to 3 seconds, and then I used that to instruct the model to finish the video in the way that I wanted, not the way that it had before. And here I generated again with like a full description that they helped me with. And look at that. Whoa. Okay, that is really cool. So some instances, the AI description is better than my description, right? Like this is really, really cool. Unfortunately, it changed the girl to having a different identity, but maybe I didn't have that close enough reference. I only had her from the behind, so it didn't quite, show exactly what I wanted to the model. So it changed the girl's identity. But in this case, like really cool. Top left especially, that's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted. And that was all because I'd only just went into here, I recut, right? I cut out like a percentage of it, and then I used that to re-prompt here and guided the whole generating process. So that gives you an idea of how Storyboard works, why it's so powerful. I hope that you guys get some time to play with Sora too. It's just came out today, so it's going to be really interesting to see what people come up with. I mean, it's definitely a new creative modality around video generation, while at the same time being in the same, video generator space, being around the same level as the other video generators in terms of actual generations, and having its own peculiarities and personality. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know like what you learn, if these things are helpful to you. Let me know if there's other videos out there that are really awesome. Even drop them in the comments, because I hope that's useful for other people as well. And let me know what other things you want to learn about Sora. I hope that this kind of gives you at least an idea of how Sora works and how useful that is. And yeah, really excited to see what other people out there are creating with it. And check out the Sora launch playlist that I've got attached to here. And yeah, see you in the next one.